Cantarella is finally arriving in Wuthering Waves, and the hype is real. But is she actually worth your hard-earned pools, or should you save for another banner? Today we are breaking down her full kit, her best synergies, her insane healing potential, and whether her weapon is a must-have or not. By the end of this video, you'll know exactly whether Cantarella deserves a spot on your team or not. Let's get into it. Reason number 1. Why Cantarella and Denjin will be great together. Skill set and moves. Cantarella's abilities focus on sustained damage and elemental synergy, making her a strong DPS or sub DPS. Her kit amplifies Denjin's ability to keep up high resonance liberation damage with continuous energy regeneration. Denjin excels in dealing fast-paced melee damage, and Cantarella's abilities can help sustain longer combos. Compared to other duos, unlike a pairing such as Denjin plus Culcharo where you have overlapping DPS roles, Cantarella brings more utility and a consistent damage output without competing for field time. Compared to Sanuha plus Denjin, Cantarella may lack some freezing utility but compensates with a more aggressive playstyle. Mistakes and pro tips. Mistake number 1. Keeping Cantarella on the field for too long instead of swapping in for Denjin's resonance liberation, leading to lost synergy potential. Mistake number 2. Not timing her skill rotation to align with Denjin's resonance liberation window, which can result in wasted energy generation. Tip number 1. Use Cantarella's energy generation abilities right before Denjin's ultimate to maximize uptime. Tip number 2. Learn the cooldown timings of both characters to execute smooth rotations without delays or gaps. If you think that this is all Cantarella had to offer, then this next reason will have you loading up Wuthering Waves immediately. Reason number 2. Skill synergies with other characters. Cantarella's kit synergizes well with support-oriented resonators like Camellia, providing additional sustain, and Yinlin, who amplifies damage by a volt resonance. Compared to Yanwu, who provides defensive utility, Cantarella offers more offensive and sustain-based synergy. Compared to Enko, Cantarella's kit leans towards more aggressive sustain damage rather than resonance liberation utility. Mistakes and pro tips. Mistake number 1. Not utilizing Cantarella's passive abilities when setting up Yinlin's burst, missing out on additional DPS potential. Mistake number 2. Ignoring elemental synergies when rotating between characters, leading to inefficient energy usage. Tip number 1. Pair her with Yinlin for volt resonance damage boost. Use Cantarella's skills right before Yinlin's resonance for maximum output. Tip number 2. Practice optimizing her skills in training mode to ensure skill rotation lines up with Camellia's healing burst. Now before I get into the next reason why Cantarella is incredible, make sure to hit that subscribe button if you love Wuthering Waves. Reason number 3. Healing. Cantarella has unique sustain mechanics, potentially offering lifesteal or a passive healing effect without a rotation. It works well in prolonged fights where sustainability is key. Compared to other characters, Rosha provides more consistent healing but lacks the offensive pressure Cantarella brings. Camellia has stronger burst healing, but Cantarella offers a balance between sustain and offense. Mistakes and pro tips. Mistake number 1. Relying solely on Cantarella for healing in high damage fights, leading to unexpected team wipeouts. Mistake number 2. Mismanaging skill rotations so that healing is used too early or too late, reducing overall effectiveness. Tip number 1. Use Cantarella's sustain abilities alongside a shield or buffer like Camellia to ensure longevity in difficult fights. Tip number 2. Learn enemy attack patterns to time healing skills efficiently, avoiding overhealing when is not necessary. If you thought that this was good, just wait. This next reason is going to make you rethink if you should pull or skip Cantarella in Wuthering Waves. Reason number 4. Free-to-play friendly teams. Cantarella's flexibility allows her to fit into free-to-play friendly teams with strong synergy. Works well with Phoebe for team buff, Havoc Robo for additional DPS, and Rosha for sustain. Compared to other characters, Havoc Robo and Denjin are solid free-to-play options, but Cantarella provides a mix of sustain and DPS. Rosha offers defensive value, but Cantarella enhances overall team damage. Mistakes and pro tip. Mistake number 1. Not building a balanced team around Cantarella's strength, leading to ineffective rotations. Mistake number 2. Underestimating the potential of Phoebe's buff, missing out on a significant DPS boost. Tip number 1. Use Havoc Rover as a secondary damage source while Cantarella builds up energy to maintain continuous DPS flow. Tip number 2. Experiment with different rotations in simulated battles to find the best free-to-play team synergies for your playstyle. If you think that was impressive, just wait. This next reason is an absolute game changer, and you'll want to log on into Wuthering Waves right now to take advantage of it. Reason number 5. Personal damage and what makes it so good. Cantarella's primary strength is sustained damage output, making her valuable in both short and long fights. Her skill multipliers and potential damage overtime effects add to her DPS role. Compared to Culcharo, who excels in burst, Cantarella's strength lies in sustained DPS. Compared to Yinlin, Cantarella lacks Volt burst but makes up for it steadily with her elemental application. Mistakes and pro tips. Mistake number 1. Failing to manage skill cooldown properly, leading to inconsistent damage output. Mistake number 2. Ignoring optimal attack sequences, reducing potential damage per second. Tip number 1. Keep a consistent attack flow to avoid downtime and maintain high DPS uptime. Tip number 2. Time her skills around boss attack patterns to maximize damage and avoid unnecessary dodging downtime. Now we've seen how Cantarella fits into different teams and just how much raw power she brings. But here's the real question. Can a signature weapon take her to an entirely new level, or is it just another overhyped 5-star? Let's break it down. Reason number 6. Her signature weapon and its pros and cons. Cantarella's weapon provides a massive 72% crit damage bonus, making it one of the best for her kit. Synergizes well with builds that focus on critical chains and elemental synergy. Compared to other weapons, free-to-play alternatives, her signature weapon significantly enhances her overall damage output. Compared to general crit-based weapons, her signature weapon optimizes her skill uptime better. Mistakes and pro tips. Mistake number 1. Using the weapon without a proper crit rate balance, leading to inconsistent damage spikes instead of steady DPS. Mistake number 2. Assuming it works for every build, some players may still prefer alternative weapons based on team compositions. Tip number 1. Pair the weapon with crit rate echoes to maintain high damage consistency and avoid over-reliance on luck. Tip number 2. Experiment with different team compositions to get the most out of a weapon's bonus by maximizing synergy with buffers. Final thoughts. Cantarella's kit makes her an incredible unit, offering both sustained and powerful DPS potential. Her synergy with top-tier characters like Denjin and Ninlin, along with her free-to-play friendly team options, makes her a worthwhile character to consider pulling for. Her weapon is also one of the strongest signature options currently available, making her a solid investment for long-term play. Cantarella's playstyle. Is she a sustained DPS? Cantarella's kit has a unique balance between resonance liberation damage and sustained DPS, making her viable in multiple team compositions. Her normal attacks and skills allow for consistent elemental application, while her resonance liberation delivers a high damage burst, making her a flexible pick. Whether she performs better as a main DPS or sub DPS depends on how you manage her rotations. Compared to Culcharo, who relies on pure burst potential, Cantarella has a steadier damage output with fewer dead zones in her rotations. Unlike Enko, who builds up to explosive damage, Cantarella spreads her damage evenly over time, making her better in prolonged fights. Mistakes and pro tips. Mistake number 1. Overusing her resonance liberation mode without planning rotations, leading to energy depletion and long cooldown downtime. Mistake number 2. Ignoring basic attack weaving, which can reduce her DPS efficiency and lead to lower sustained damage output. Tip number 1. Learn when to use her resonance liberation mode versus sustained DPS mode. Based on enemy types for bosses, burst rotations work better, while for waves of enemies, consistent damage is key. Tip number 2. Optimize energy management, pair her with characters like Yinlin or Sanhua, who can support her uptime through energy generation. But would you pull for Cantarella? Let me know in the comments below, and don't forget to like and subscribe for more Wuthering Waves content. If you like this video, you'll love this one where I break down Cheng Li's pros and cons and how to build her the right way for maximum damage.